Right, so I've got to start recording. It is recording. Now we have to find John.
There are 16 participants.
Yeah, they're coming in quite a bit now. Why is Vijay here? How do I get Vijay into the panel? Vijay is on the panel.
John's here.
It's John.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
Cindy, you have to hover over Vijay's name and shift her to the panel. Did you do that?
So I'm sorry, instead of bringing up Vijay to the panel, I brought you.
Oh, Sylvie, okay. Hi, John.
Hi, Ram.
I don't see Vijay here.
No, she is there in the participants, attendees.
She's there on the attendees list, and
I can't.
I'm getting her now.
You just have to hover. Yeah, okay.
But I've got Vijay in, and now, how do I?
Yeah. Sylvie, you have to.
Sylvie, I don't know how to get you out of the panel now. Do you know how?
Okay, let her be there. It's okay.
Yeah, I think you can sit here with us if that's okay with you.
Okay, Cindy, all yours. Today's colloquium on how mastery helps us being socially relevant, which assumes that we are at the moment socially irrelevant, which I don't think is quite true. But anyway, so I know, I'm sure that Cindy knows how to make us all more relevant. All over to you, Cindy.
Hi, everyone. No, it wasn't, I mean, not that I know all the answers, but I have a beautiful panelist here in case you're all, I mean, I'm sure you all noticed that, and they have a lot of the answers too. So we're going to invite the panelists to introduce themselves and say a little bit about the coaching they are doing that makes a social impact right now. Wants to start? Priya?
Yep. Hello, everyone. Great to meet everyone here. So I'm Priya. I'm an MCC coach. I've been doing a little bit of work for an organization which is called Global Action on Poverty. So this is a group which identifies change makers in India, and these change makers are assigned coaches. So I had a client who used to work for women empowerment at the grassroots level in the interiors of northern part of India. And it was amazing to see how someone who's really not had too much exposure, but it is just the sheer will and grit to make a difference that's driving her. So it was an honor for me to coach her. One of the other assignments that I had done was work with a cancer hospital in the northeast part of India, where I had the opportunity to do some group coaching for the entire hospital staff. And this was a hospital which was run by a trust with very little funds and very frugal means, but amazing work that they're doing, cutting edge work that they're doing. So it was really challenging, but the greatest satisfaction for me there was that I perhaps would not be able to cure these people. I would not probably be able to touch the lives of the individual in remote areas of India. But by making a difference to that one coachee who was doing that work, I felt I was contributing to society, and it was very, very fulfilling. So that's my little bit of work that I have done for the society at large.
And Priya, if I may ask you this, in alignment with our topic today, how is becoming an MCC help enhance the contribution to societal change?
See, the MCC journey has taught me a lot about how to hold space for another. It has taught me a lot about not being judgmental, right? And if I can do that for one person, it creates a ripple effect. He or she has probably tasted what it feels like to be held and to be listened to without being judged. So the hope is that they would be able to transfer that to somebody else. And like I said, I can't touch everybody's lives, right? So they say that change starts from you. So if I can make a difference to one person, and at a deeper level, because the MCC journey has been about really going deep into the person, knowing the person holistically, everything about that person. So if that shift happens in that one person, the hope is that they will be able to transfer that to somebody else. Yeah. So this journey has deepened that experience for me, I must say.
Thank you, Priya. That, beautifully said. Jackie, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a bit about your involvement with social change?
Sure. It's Jackie Sloan. I'm in Chicago. I've been a master certified coach for a long time. I was in that very first group that got the MCC. So I was able to, get that credential very early on. What I think about several things right now. I do a balance of executive coaching and then volunteer work and then consulting work. And what occurs to me to share right now is I'm really kind of fresh with a conversation I had recently with Ram about awareness, about how, what creating awareness means in terms of the coach and the coach's own awareness and the awareness that we create with our clients. So there's this powerful book I've been reading called The Living Classroom, Teaching in the Collective Unconsciousness. And it talks about how, the energetic fields that we have individually, and this, of course, and then the greater energetic fields that we can co-create with our clients or co-create with a classroom. This is a professor of religion and philosophy at Youngstown. So one of the things that he says, and that one of the things that we were talking about the other day, is the idea of when the coach continues his or her own learning to keep deepening your own spiritual self-awareness or your own self-awareness, that has a deeper impact on your clients. So I think that part of the responsibility of a master certified coach is to keep, maybe the bar is a little bit higher to keep your learning going. So what occurs to me is to share is several things. I just worked with somebody yesterday who does work helping other people, training other people to as she puts it, create incredible lives in spite of illness, in spite of debilitating illness. And we had this kind of amazing meeting yesterday where right before our meeting, she had this incredible experience where she basically downloaded a whole course, like a 10-session course. It was just kind of amazing. It was just, so I feel like by creating the space for deepening my awareness, there's an impact on her awareness and on her ability to slow down and be with her creativity. And this might not be very clear what I'm saying, because it's just occurring to me as we're talking. But I just feel like when we deepen our awareness, our awareness of things, we're creating a space, like Priya was saying, where a lot of creativity can show up for the other person, and a lot of opportunity can show up for the other person. You create this space where they you believe in them and their vision and what they're up to. But the other thing I wanted to say is I'm a part of the Social Transformation Lab that the President's Institute is just launching. A colleague and I are it just launches this week. Otto Scharmer has this global project about how do you there's so many problems that we have created everywhere that nobody wants, nobody knows how to address. And so the idea of the Social Transformation Lab is how do we work together to address these issues. And one of the distinctions he talks about is he thinks the polarities are not left and right. They're really open and closed. Are you open to new ideas? Are you open to new learning? Or are you closed? And so our project is the Open Conversation Project. My colleague and I, who is another MCC, and what we're going to be doing is interviewing people and then creating experiences where people talk about what has you be open to things and what has you be closed to things. And from there, looking to create experiences where people can discover where we have commonalities, so that we can have conversations that we're not having right now in all kinds of situations in life. Yeah. So I didn't mean to take that long. I was just having that insight, and it just kind of, maybe I didn't explain it that well.
You did. Thank you, Jackie. And the point you're raising about the growth mindset, what can we do? So many of us want to do so much for societal change. We have all these lovely thoughts that we want to do and don't even know where to start. So I'm hoping that this conversation will trigger that off in others to say, maybe that's my starting point. I'll go with my growth mindset instead of just having an idea and staying with the idea. That was a lovely point that you raised. Vijay, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. This is Vijay. I'm from Chennai, India. Yeah, so I'm going to just start off by, what the entire mastery journey, which I commenced almost over a year back, really sort of.
Can you use a video? Vijay, can you use a video?
Yeah, I just seem to be having some issue with my signal strength. Let me try. If it doesn't work, then I'll go back to offline.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, really talking about what stood out for me in the mastery journey, amongst many things, the one aspect I want to talk about is, this whole element of trying to be a better person. And I think that's where I'm just going to lead into how that links up to societal change. like Priya was mentioning, it gave me a space, a very safe space to explore not just the breadth, but the depth of me. So we often talk about what versus who, right? But while that distinction sat in quite rationally in my mind, I actually experienced that because oftentimes in the busyness of life and the crazy pressures everybody is under, you want to crack your what? You want to get solutions to your what? And we never sort of trust ourselves and, let's say, the partner to go into the who at all. I think the mastery journey offered me that space because I would realize that unless I got there and faced those demons and also looked at my deepest strengths, I wasn't really progressing. My solutions to issues were all surface level. The depth really came through that process. And I'm just thinking, what if everybody, yeah, I mean, and let's sort of get a little dramatic here. Everybody in the world got the space to do that. But that's my vision. Really trying and say, can everybody have at least one coaching conversation, one coaching engagement, somebody who they can trust as a very trusted partner to really do this inner work with? How often does the common person get time or space or the ability to do inner work? We do it. We are professionals. Can this be offered to society as such? So let's look at the coaching a little differently. While there are ICF guidelines and competencies and all of that, essentially it's a couple of important skills, right, which are required for life. Deep listening, active listening, right? Creating partnerships that are meaningful. Allowing yourself to have awareness moments. Now, are these skills that difficult for people to pick up? Or are they, I mean, it's not rocket science, honestly, if we can sort of get everybody to think in terms of these few skills. Or even with the problem, right? We talk CC2. There's a way to look at the issue. There's a way to set a goal. You can do this for yourself. So that's what I mean, saying that can we pull out some of these very essential skills which are part of the coaching process and make it accessible to society at large? What a reflective, what an introspective, and what a beautiful society we would have. Where people were ready to pause, introspect, reflect, and think, right? Relationships and partnerships would be so much more beautiful. You would understand each other far better. So that's what mastery has sort of given me the space to think about. And this is very exciting. I know it sounds larger than life, but I think there's a way to do it. And probably, in part 2, I will talk about a couple of the ideas that I'm thinking about. Started doing it in my own little way because today, every conversation I have, even without wearing the hat of a coach, is a conversation where I'm using coaching competencies. And that's fantastic. Give you a small example. I came out of a high school game last week. I was watching, I was cheering. And the typical, sports person coach attitude would be, so, A, B, C, D went wrong. You could have done this better. That's how normally sports coaches are. But my approach was very different this time. I tried something very different. I asked each one of the top players saying, what went great? What didn't go so great? And magic, magic happened in the next game. No telling, absolutely only asking and questioning. So the power is so deep and so strong. Thanks, Cindy, for allowing me to share that.
Yeah, very passionately too, right, Vijay? Love that the way you shared that. And just to further explore what you were saying, last year for International Coaching Week, as chapter leader, we ran an All Africa goal. And it was so simple. We just asked every coach in Africa to go out and coach somebody else who would have never got the chance to experience coaching. So, people in the street, rural people, offer them a session. And we all used a Twitter feed to share experiences, coach and clients. It was really brilliant because we got collectively to see the impact of, hashtag Coach Africa.
Yeah.
So it can make an impact in small ways, right?
Yeah, I think so. And just to sort of summarize the thing, right? So mastery brought out this thing in me that, you know, this coaching is not rocket science. It's not I mean, as much I'd like to believe for our practice that we've, you know, done a lot of work to get here. Applying the principles is no rocket science really. Earlier, I wouldn't think like that. You know, I thought it was, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of structure, a lot of framework, a lot of competencies. No, you know, at the end of it, it's just a way of being. So the whole simplicity of it emerged for me through this process, Cindy, and I thank you and Ram for that. Thanks.
We thank you for your growth and your contributions. John, you want to go next?
Sure. Do you want me to go on video?
Yeah, that would be lovely. There we go.
See me?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, you know, as part of, I think having gone through the NCC process and journey and getting that tag, I think gives us or puts upon us a sacred duty to be of help to others. And so one of the things that I've been toying with, and I haven't really gotten around to figuring out how to do it, was really to reach out because I realized that coach training is expensive. And I see, especially in a country like India, where we have so many women, and I believe that they are in a disadvantaged position because of whatever, cultural and other reasons. And I believe that if I could in some way, shape or form, be able to take the coaching principles and allow them to experience it and facilitate their growth, then I think we would be able to help a generation of Indians through these women, you know, because you know they are moms, they are children, and they can actually influence a generation. And what I find is that the coaching, ICF coaching competencies and principles, the applications of those are pretty much universal. And let me give you an example of what I mean by that. I'm in the process of reading two books. One is The Theory U by Otto Scharmer. And just like Carl Rogers' book, this book is having a tremendous impact on me. And then a friend of mine recommended that I read a book on negotiations by a former FBI negotiator called Chris Voss. And the name of the book is Never Split the Difference. And I was reading the reviews in Amazon, and somebody has written there that this book talks about this amazing principle of unconditional positive regard for the people holding hostages. And as I'm reading the book, it's nothing but coaching principles. It's about listening, it's about empathy, it's about being in the moment, it's about creating space for safety, even with people such as captors, for example. So I believe there's a lot of things that we can do, particularly in a social framework, and to be able to offer it. And so I believe that if I could make a difference to women, and it's not as if I'm gender biased, if there are men who would like to take advantage of it, so be it. But really the focus is towards women. And that's what I've been thinking. And I'm happy to hear any thoughts, any opinions, any help that you might be able to offer. Anything is welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
Well, as a mostly woman panelist, I'm feeling quite privileged.
Yeah.
Ram, you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Cindy. Couple of things. One is, I think some of the stuff that John said and before that Vijay said, I think there is a bit of a collective conscious or collective unconscious, whatever it may be, that's working around here. I think ultimately they would like to be is in a position where we could enable everybody to self-coach. And the objective of that is to develop that innate, inherent, perhaps sometimes not quite visible leadership potential in such people. For a long time, this has been the vision with which I've been wanting to work in Kocharya, and that's eventually is what is likely to happen. Whether we do it through something like an app with all the kinds of artificial intelligence capabilities that are available today, can we do that far more effectively at pretty much no cost, perhaps low cost? But the fundamental principle of that, to me, is something. There was a quote that you sent, Cindy, about the change has to come from the inside, then it goes outside, and then for it to be sustainable, it has to be collective. I think the singular shift that happens to many of us, and even as shared by many of you here, and that we have watched over the last several batches of people we have trained as master coaches, is that this whole competency of something called creating awareness, which at the level of PCCs seems to remain, the responsibility of the coach to develop in the client also comes back as a focal point for the coach to develop. And this is what Carl Rogers says, that in order for the coach to be able to create awareness for someone else, it has to first start within the coach. And the whole concept of being non-judgmental, unconditional positive regard, or using Otto Scharmer's words that John talked about, generative listening, which is why we coined the word. Contrarily, someone is really, the mic is disturbing. There's a lot of noise coming, I don't know from where. If you can all mute your mic, please. So yeah, now it's become less. So the whole concept of being mindless, the whole concept of being completely disengaged, and that starts happening. And so one of the efforts that we would like to try and make is to how to create that kind of a self-awareness. And some of you would know that we are planning this retreat for a select group of people in the next month, essentially for 3 nights and 4 days. And that this is going to be one of the focal points of, I mean, Jackie referred to the conversation that we had on awareness. It's all about how do you develop that inner awareness? Because as the greatest of masters from Buddha to Gandhi have said, the change, you need to become the change that you wish to make happen, without which no change is possible. The self-transformation, the self-awareness has to happen. And once that becomes external, there's a very, very good possibility that if you are truly the change that you wish to make happen, as it happened with Mahatma Gandhi, with Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, and various other people of that stature, that was all that really happened. They became authentic. They became the change that they wanted to make in other people. And that caught on, that inspired and influenced people, and other people followed. And then they experienced it for themselves, and so it grew into a movement. This is really what ultimately a group of master coaches can do. In India, we have now, with Kocharya itself, we have 26, 27 master coaches. What if we could get together and some of these things that we are talking about in our collective conscious and collective unconscious, in terms of like what Priya talked about in terms of working with the GAP or some hospital somewhere or whatever it may be, or like John is talking about in terms of creating that ability within women to become coaches. The simple shift that I would like to see that is they become leaders, and they develop that ability to be leaders through the possibility of self-coaching themselves, using the coaching competencies of defining an outcome, focusing towards what needs to be done, creating the awareness for it, and so on and so forth. And as Vijay said, it's not rocket science. Anybody can do it. And in Zen, there is a very famous saying which says that when you are a beginner, you are like a child. Everything is very, very simple. It's only when you start learning, getting conditioned, everything becomes very complex. And you start attributing motives and agendas to it. And finally, when you reach mastery, everything becomes very simple again. And it is very simple. We make it complicated by adding our judgments, adding our agenda to it. So my request to this community is really, let us start looking at it in a very, very simple way. We exist not alone. We are not islands, as John Donne said. We are a part of a much larger entity, a systemic entity. And in order to be part of that entity, we need to work collectively. We need to work in the collective consciousness. And that's really what many of us who went through this mastery journey experience for ourselves. How do we move from the I, the me, to the we, to the larger? And how do we do that? So I just want to leave that thought. Unfortunately, I need to get something done. I need to move, but thank you for giving me the opportunity. Bye.
Cindy, you're on mute.
Thanks, Priya. To all the attendees, coaches and non-coaches, I'd like to invite you to type onto the chat box what change you are involved in, what kind of social projects that you are involved in. Please go ahead, we'd love to hear from you. And while you're busy typing, we'll ask Rama to share her experiences. I know that she's working with quite a few incubators. So Rama, if you would introduce yourself and share, please.
Hi, thanks, Cindy. Thanks for asking me to be on panel here. I just got my master MCC, so I'm thrilled. And thank you, Cindy and Ram, for being my mentors. So it's been fascinating, the journey. I trained to be a coach maybe 7 years back. But I think this last year has been about, as many of us talked about, learning that it is actually simple, that it is being you, being human, being there for the other person, and being just listening and being a partner. And just giving that unconditional positive regard. How much of the other person's potential come to fore, and just feeling that acceptance from the other person, how much does it make one explore themselves and actually find their own answers and be okay with their limitations and ready to move forward. It is just simple yet super, super powerful. Just the coaching process and the space that you give to anyone, because that doesn't happen often and that doesn't happen regularly. So that's what that has been for me. I mean, Carl Rogers has been for so many people, and you know how he changed. I mean, for me, his book definitely made me see my clients, everybody very differently, and to think that everybody has the potential. So that's been for me, the journey. And Cindy wanted me to talk about what I do. I mean, I've worked for a long time. As a management consultant, heading organizations and marketing across few countries and so on. But it's been the last 10 years that I've been mentoring and coaching that's actually been so fulfilling. So I work a lot with the social enterprises, social sector as well. So I'm coach and mentor Afghan civil servants as part of a UNITAR UN program. Been doing that for 9 years now. So I work with them on just being better government servants in Afghanistan, because they just haven't had governance for so long. And I also work with Social Incubator, which works with social businesses to incubate and to help them scale up. And with I sit on the board of another impact organization as well, which works with social businesses. So these kind of people, it's been amazing. I think Priya mentioned earlier that, you know I'm not able to be on the ground and working with doing all the work that they are doing. It's just so amazing. I feel that I can do my little bit by working with the founder and making their work more powerful and to be able to reach far more people. And that widens the network. It expands the number of people who can be impacted. And so I work, for example, with an organization in Rajasthan in India, who works in rural villages to bring where there is not enough electricity power to work on solar connections. And making that change, working with her, the founder, Ajayta, to actually expand into far more, to be scaling up her expanding, which is what she's done, and to expand her vision as to this is not the only village I'm working with. How can I actually be expanding and move beyond, not just here, maybe even going to Africa? It has been, it's been extremely fulfilling because she's made that change. She's been recognized globally, and she's impacted, her organization and her people have impacted so many lives, so many students who've not had access to perhaps having that light to study in the night, or for a woman to be cooking in the night later because she didn't have power. It wasn't easy to make those differences. I know I wouldn't be able to do it personally myself, but because I can work with people like her, who are impacting a large number of people, it gives me that sense of purpose as well, that it's extremely fulfilling, extremely rewarding, and I love it. So. And it's the same with the Afghans, actually. I've been working with them for 10 years, and there are a couple of deputy ministers from the programs and 10 directors. And knowing that, despite whatever they have, that they've been able to make an impact, the government, what changes have been able to happen in Afghanistan itself. Extremely fulfilling too, for each of them to be making that difference within their own sphere.
Thank you, Raman. It was such a beautiful story that you said there. So participants, I'm always so ready to say coaches, participants and panelists, I have a question. Please type your answer. What's the one area, or what's the area that you'd like to see a social impact in? I know that we're talking a lot about business incubators and small businesses and individuals, but if there was a large area like economics or the economy or education or something, what is the area that you would like to see a big change in? Well, it's wonderful what a lot of participants are saying. Education seems to be the common one. So Priya, I know this is also your area of passion, education. So talk a bit about what change you'd like to see in education, Priya.
So it starts with what I see currently needs to change. At least I can only speak from my experience in India. Education is largely, academic. So there's a lot of focus on building academic skills, technical skills, very little focus on nurturing the emotional, social skills of a child. And I see, I've also, worked a lot with young adults in colleges, and I see the entire gamut of people who go through the education system, that they were born far more emotionally intelligent, and somehow the education system really has not nurtured it enough. In fact, it has destroyed it. So they become very dysfunctional as human beings. And that's what I want to see as a change in education system, where I actually did an experiment in a large school of 1,500 students, where I took a survey to understand where they are on their emotional intelligence. And as I could actually see from class 2 to higher grades, there's a vast difference in how they are managing their emotions. They become less and less capable of managing. And I found an interesting data point here, which is when a child requires that empathy from someone else, it is typically the teacher that they go to. And I found that the teachers were not equipped to deal with that. So there was, so I did a lot of workshops and training and creating awareness around how important it is for a child to have a more holistic life and not just only focus on academics and technical skills. I see a lot of scope for us coaches to work with teachers and young adults and students to build this. So it's a area which is very close to my heart, actually. And I think that these are the people who are tomorrow's leaders. And being able to make that, support them here, I think society would be transformed.
Thanks, Priya. Agreed. So, participants and go,
I'd like
Vijay.
to add one point on the education bit. Completely agree with Priya that they are the future. And what I also find missing, at least in the Indian education system, is teaching has a lot of telling in it, right? But telling is largely maybe with facts and data. Telling need not be on perspectives. And it would be so wonderful if, let's say, all teachers could be equipped with, let's say, fundamental principles of coaching, right? As we spoke earlier, we have a B.Ed program which every teacher has to go through to be able to teach. As a essential part of the curriculum of the B.Ed program, you must have a module on coaching mentoring, right? And unless you pass that, you don't get to teach. Just imagine. I think some of it, the point I'm trying to say is we do need intervention at a policy level. Like you say, who can teach? This is the way we do teach, especially when you talk about high schoolers and people who are young adults who don't really want to be told, right? And beautiful learning happens through co-creation. So I think mentoring coaching skills must be mandatory for every teacher.
Yeah, that's great, Vijay, because then we'll suddenly change our communication style, right?
Yeah, the entire narrative changes.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a ripple effect of change there. So to the panel and participants, I have another question. Please type your response. It's quite important for us to hear what you have to say. If you could raise the bar, what would you do? What could you do? What would you, could you, what would you like to do? So with regards to social change, if you could raise the bar, what would you do? And while you are typing, Sylvie's on our panel and we'd like to hear from her. Sylvie, are you there?
Cindy, could you repeat the question? I think there are a couple of participants who haven't got the question quite clearly.
Okay. If you could raise the bar, so if there's anything you could do with regards to social change, and if you could raise the bar, what would it be? Or another way of saying it, if you were to raise the bar, what would it look like? You want to type that in, please, Priya, if you can? If you were to raise the bar, what would it look like? And while we are reading all your typed messages, I'd like to ask John. John?
Yes.
There's a whole lot here. Share story doesn't have to be on women empowerment. What would you like to say?
Cindy, I couldn't hear you, but
is my internet okay? Okay.
Yeah, you want to just repeat that?
Yeah, I said there's a lot that I'm picking up on the chat around women empowerment.
Yes.
And do you want to respond to that? I know you also got a story to share.
Yes.
So you can respond and share your story. Go ahead.
Yes. So today we met a friend of ours, actually my wife's friend, after about 10 years. And she's a single mom who adopted a daughter, little girl when she was very little. And we were talking about the challenges of raising children. We have a couple of adopted children ourselves. And we realized that we are never taught to be parents. We learn on the job. And I was thinking that, for every mother to learn the skills of coaching would be a wonderful way for her to prepare herself for motherhood. And as I mentioned before, that mothers, and I think Ramona mentioned that mothers can be real change agents in the world because they are bringing forth a society, a generation that's going to spring forth from them. And maybe this could be one way for us to prepare parents for parenting. Just a thought that came up from this conversation that I had today with this friend. Thank you for allowing me to share that.
Yeah, that's a lovely thought, right? So, yeah, Ramona has already spoken about that.
Yeah.
How would we do that? That would be the question, right?
Yeah.
We'll take it as a brainstorming question and think more about that. Perhaps some of our participants are already doing that, and they could share with us what they are doing, empowering mothers or helping coach mothers.
So Cindy, if I may come in here on the same topic. So I used to do some sessions, group sessions. They were called family sessions, wherein it was specifically targeted for expectant mothers. And one of the rules of that program is the fathers have to be there as well. So both the expectant mother and the father was there. And it was really, for me, it was a very fulfilling experience because I know that at the end of the session, they go back with a little nugget of awareness. And I know that that's going to reach the child. It's going to change the family. Yeah. And I used to do this. I've done some 35 such sessions. And I always, thank this person who thought of this idea. It's not about doing it after they've become parents, but before they have become parents. It sort of prepares their, I think it gives them a sense of readiness to be able to, in whatever sense, to deal with what's coming up for them.
So sometimes we just doubt ourselves, right? Because look at all the ideas we're coming up with and how much is already being done.
Cindy, since there are many coaches here, I actually want to propose something that's been going on in my mind, something a little bold, I would think. So I'm connecting it with that. So I was just thinking, right, going to the point about making coaching accessible. I think John touched upon coach training being expensive. I believe that coaching itself is very expensive for the common man. The average person cannot afford coaching in today's, the whole model is like that, right? To become a coach, you're actually sort of investing so much of money. So in a manner of speaking, you will recover it with the kind of charges you charge. So that's a different model. The point is the average person, let's say your average mother, what we spoke about, can't afford coaching the way it is today. So what if you just flip it around on the head and sort of saying that instead of changing your entire model, one way of it will be to sort of make it more mass market, maybe with something like an app, etc. Ram was talking about, but that cannot substitute for the entire experience of working with a coach. We were to say that, while that's on one part, every coach, and I was just doing the math today, right? And so I must say, getting on to the ICF, volunteering my time, has made me start thinking a lot of these things a little bit more systematically. If ICF were to say to retain your credential, you need to clock in at least 50 pro bono hours of coaching every year, right? It could be with anyone, doesn't matter. You could coach your family. The point is not who you're coaching. The point is you've coached and made yourself accessible to somebody who probably could not have access to you otherwise. I mean, just do the math. How many credential holders and how many hours would we get? And 50 hours is just 1 hour a week, which I'm sure all of us can do. So I just got very excited about this model, and I thought we must maybe, think about it. I don't know today in the capacities in which I am in ICF. I'm not sure. I will push it wherever, propose it at the right space. But I think that excited me a lot. Saying let's do our bit, and not just during International Coaching Week.
Absolutely. Because as you said earlier on, it's quite easy, right? We shouldn't make it so difficult. And of course, am I frozen? We got 27,000, ICF has 27,000 credential holders. So I'll just help you with the maths there.
Cindy, could I add something?
Yes, go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea. I love that idea. That idea of that way of thinking, like it's just 1 hour a week, and so that makes it so doable. So the other thing about what we're talking about, my friend Ann and I, who are doing the Presencing Institute project together, we've been talking about how do we bring into the schools, like working with young children in schools, whether they're being at a certain age, perhaps maybe 11 or 12 and into high school. How do we bring leadership and coaching skills to them? Because we were thinking, we're specifically interested in this idea of conversations. How do people have conversations that make things possible, that give you the opportunity to generate something possible? In the States, we're seeing this group of kids from Florida who were in that terrible shootout, taking a national platform, like speaking out about gun violence, and the idea of creating some sort of programs within the schools where people develop leadership skills and coaching skills. They would be impacting their families. They would be bringing that knowledge into their families, and then the teachers would be learning that as well. So it's like kind of a long game for a societal transformation.
Yeah. We're almost at the end of our time. 6 minutes to go. Does any one of our participants want to share or come up to the panel and say something? And while you're deciding that, Rama, any closing words from you?
No, I was thinking that for me, what makes it so many things resonate with so many of us. And there are, 7 billion people in the world. And how can we make the impact of coaching, as wide as possible with the bandwidth that we all have? For me, it is that I work with organizations which work on the ground, who are actually adding value to a lot of people, and working with the founders or the, people in those organizations which are impacting a larger number of people, where it is changing the lives of a lot of people. And the one model that I adopt after the, now is also to see how, when I'm coaching, how can I work with them that they work on a coaching conversation model? How do they become coaches when they are working with the larger, within their own organization, and expanding that? How can they actually take it on further? So for me, that makes it, the policy level changes will be, making that impact into policy, will be an amazing idea, but it's going to be really difficult to have even a small change in a small community of, even a school, let alone a large, making it mandatory across. But in our own small way, what can we do to expand that is how I would see. So how can we make anybody that we coach, how can we make them see that how the coaching has expanded them, as I think Jackie mentioned, to generate possibilities for them, and how can they use that to look at unconditional positive regard for the other people and have those same coaching conversations with others to expand, apart from the other socially relevant work that they're doing, which is actually positively impacting a lot of people. So
absolutely,
whether education, whether mothers, whether anybody, if you're able to impact one who can actually light that among a larger number of people, it just expands our impact. It widens it faster. So I think we need to make that small change, rather than thinking policy will change, but what can we individually can do is what I think is really, really, really important.
Yeah. We let policymakers take inspiration from the work that we do.
And that's true. And when they see that there are people who have done that, the changes happen after that within the government, when they see there are people who've done that work. So
absolutely, many environmental changes have happened that way. Coaches, we all knew that. Well, as panelists, we knew that having a 1 hour conversation on this topic is only opening the topic up. And we hope that, in a few months we can come back and have this topic again in a deeper way, or brainstorm this topic in a deeper way, or perhaps find other ways where we could all get together and talk about societal change and take actions around it. And I hope you're going to leave inspired or with some kind of thought on what you could do and how you could do it. And we're quite happy to have conversations with everybody on the topic, just to explore and expand it further. We've got 2 more minutes to go. So, John, would you like your final thoughts in about 30 seconds, please? Priya, you go next, and Jackie.
I think there's a lot of awareness, and I think there is a desire in all of us to make that change happen. And I agree with what Ram said, that the change has to begin with us. And I think we should probably start taking small baby steps. And I think if that can be a galvanizing force of some sorts. Who knows, it might turn into a huge hurricane, of goodness all over.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, as you know, it is really very inspiring to hear, one, that we are all aligned, that we want to do something for the society. Two, that it's simple to do it. All of us just have to start in our own small way. It'll happen. Three is, it has brought in so many areas and areas of interest in different people that it shouldn't just stay with it being an idea, but it should translate to one step, at least one small step, whatever that step is. That's what I'm left inspired after the conversation today.
Thank you, Priya. Jackie, your closing thoughts? Wait,
just
Jackie,
wanted to
1 minute. Coaches, please type your closing thoughts also on the chat box. What are your closing thoughts, or what do you want to take away, or what you want to see more of? Anything that's sitting on your mind, type it in. Jackie, over to you.
Thank you, Cindy. I want to say thank you for creating this conversation, and it's been wonderful to learn more about everybody and all the fascinating things people are thinking about and working on. And I would just say that I think it would be great to have more of these conversations, and I think because I think it creates, for one thing, intimacy, but it also provokes thinking, and I think we all need to challenge ourselves and our clients as coaches, ourselves and our clients as coaches, to think bigger about what's the bigger possibility, what's the bigger difference that each of us can make, either as a coach or for our clients.
Yeah.
Expand the ability to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose a lot of coaches are already doing that. So this conversation is not about what you are doing, an acknowledgement for all being done already, but it's about expanding it and taking it more, one step more. How can we impact social change in a big way? One step at a time, one small step at a time. Thank you all for joining us today. We loved being with you, and we'll open this conversation again in a few months' time. Please do connect with us on various platforms, WhatsApp, Facebook, or just send an email to Coach Arya and we'll connect with you. Thank you all. Thank you to the panelists. You've been amazing.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cindy,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. And amazing from the participants. I mean, there's so much we've heard, which makes our eyes open and think of new ways to do. Thanks.
Yeah, and would love to carry on the conversation. I think Cindy's just kicked this off.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.